Good afternoon, everyone. So we're having another installment of Software Webinar Series. I appreciate everyone joining us today. We've got a great session lined up for us today. Today's webinar is titled Making Innovation a Part of Your Daily Culture. And our presenters today are Roman Kolochak and Taras Holopkin. Roman is Vice President of Products and Services Success at SoftServe. Taras is Transformation Platforms Director at SoftServe. Just before handing the presentation over, I would like to remind that we will be happy to answer any questions you may have from this session. Please submit your questions throughout the presentation, either here in live chat or to webinars@softserveinc.com. And we will try to address all of the questions at the end of presentation. Finally, I would like to welcome Taras and Roman.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Roman. Thank you, Oля, for introduction. And today our topic is really to talk about making innovation a part of your daily culture. So, being honest, this is a very wide topic. So, how to do this stuff, and we have been thinking a lot with Taras how to really outline this item to you, for example. So, because in our company we're doing a lot of the different things that we are calling innovations, like the different initiatives, different stuff. And that's probably something that we would like to share with you today, how we are doing this and what are the key factors that we think they're important when doing this stuff, and etc. And as Oля mentioned, feel free to send any questions and we'll gladly answer them at the end of our presentation. Yeah, so, okay, so first, probably item about what is the problem with the innovations. So the first problem is that they are not really very successful in general. So that's probably the biggest problem is currently, which I've seen in my skin, I would say, and Taras probably can share his own experience during today's presentation. So based on the statistic, this is very rough statistic. Only 70% of innovation failed miserably. 20% of which are left, for example, so are have some kind of relative success, and only 10%, in best case, do have are financially efficient, and which means actually so they do return the money that has been invested and generating to you some kind of the profit. So that's a pretty small number. Maybe you all heard about the messages like investment business are investing only one of the 10 products or investments are really waking up, and that's something that proves these numbers are proving the statement either. So what's wrong with that?
So if we talk about the reason of fail, so I would call it three of them. So invention is not just like innovation, and really often invention is really treated as innovation, so that's not true. And using inside-out ideation is exactly like small groups that we'll talk around that, why it's fail reason. And just using ideate, deliver approach, so call it. So when you just created some design or ideated some solution and you just started to develop it, immediately implementing it. So we also cover this topic in our presentation.
Yeah, so probably I'll start from first one, like innovation is not the invention, or what is the difference between them. So let's probably think about what the innovation is. So here you see the couple of sayings from very famous people what the innovation is. And if taken in some nutshell, this is some introduction of new products to the future delivered, anything that is new, useful, surprising, and believe me, there are tons of other definitions of this stuff either here. So the point is that in reality, there is no one single definition of what the innovation is. If we look into this topic a little bit deeper, so what people think about what innovation is, so here are some stats about that. So 60% of the people do think that innovation is just having an idea. So that's actually, if I have an idea, I think that I am innovative, for example, so I am driving my innovation, etc. The other 60, or the same 60, I'm not sure, are thinking about that executing the idea, that the innovation is. You see the other one, like the add value for the company, add value for the customers, but the most important number here, I think that is in the lowest right corner, saying that only 7% of the people are thinking that addressing market need is really the innovation.
Yeah, from this picture it also can be seen that ideation is really part of the innovation process.
Yeah, and if talking about answering the question, what the innovation, how it's different from invention and etc., in generally, innovation is really some function, some combination of invention, which is typically inventing something new, figuring out what is, it's really typical of the idea of something cool, something tangible, and etc. Also, we should take into consideration customer value. This is something. That's the benefit that you bring to your customers. That's the value that they are feeling from the implementation of this, of this idea, and of course the business model, which actually at the end defines your profit schema, profit formula, where you're earning profit on this innovation. So innovation is function of invention, customer value, and business model, and not just the invention.
Let's look closer on the topic ideation and brainstorming. So really often we can see that brainstorming may solve a lot of problems and really often treated as ideation process. In fact, brainstorming is not an ideation. So the key problems of brainstorming are that can be handled in the small groups, so up to 8 people. So, and if in these small groups there are smart people, they might be not so confident to provide their opinion. So this might like a quite people problem. And you always need to moderate the activity. You always need to moderate the topic of the discussion of the brainstorming. And this is also not so comfortable. From the ideation perspective, so we say that ideation is like next generation of brainstorming. So actually it allows to turn more people, involve more people to the ideation process, provide their idea, provide their opinions online, offline, so there's like no limitation for that. And we say that like this really important part of the innovation process.
Yeah, and I will add here from my personal experience. So I was part of the number of the brainstorming sessions. I believe that you guys either. And usually that's really the issue about having quiet people, really some need for managing the sense of urgency for them to make sure they're involved in generating the ideas. And ideation, that's the technique which actually is called the next generation brainstorming, like it's shown here. What is really cool about that is really that people are really involved and I would say very motivated working with you if you're using this approach. So you are not forcing them to generate the ideas or putting the constraints for them to generate some cool stuff and etc. They really want to do this, and you're just utilizing their wish and wanting to really do this stuff for you.
Yeah, and moving to the next aspect for today's topic is power of the crowd.
Yeah, so one more item which is, as Taras told you, which is this, we are believing the success factor, for example, so for doing the ideation, which is the crucial part of the innovation, if you remember, is really utilize the crowd power. And if talking about how this can be utilized, there are a number of the ways. In terms of ideation, first of all, we probably all of you know about the open innovation term, which means that using when you're doing the ideation, not only rely on your own understanding of the problem and concept, for example, so how this should be solved of your team or some people whom you trust and etc. Really collect the different ideas, disruptive ideas from all sources that you can. And these sources are not only different people within your organization. This is your customers, for example. So if you're solving some problem, ask your customers what they think, how it should be solved. Ask your end users, ask the users of end users, ask wives of the end users or somebody else. So you can really involve them and they'll bring you additional context that you never have been thinking about through. And this in generally called the open innovation, bringing some third party, I would say, users or ideators like the communities and the customers, etc., to really empower your ideation process.
Yeah, and from internal co-innovation perspective, this is the case when you can leverage your packets of intellect on the company to bring generate all the ideation process that may bring you a lot of benefits to the company. So typically 90% of the companies are not using the packets of intellect inside the company, and that's actually like a huge force to leverage the innovation process.
Yeah, that's true. And I would add to that probably so that usually have this internal co-innovation, the typical problem when we are coming to the customer, they're saying, we have so much experience, for example, how we are doing the product, but we have no idea how to really define the stuff, what's the new stuff, and etc. And this experience means the experience with the people. You really have to leverage that. And the point of leveraging this stuff is really to providing them the quick access to some kind of easy way to submit their ideas in order to do this, to empower your innovation practices.
Yeah, so we're talking about the ideation, and this is really powerful stuff. But why ideation is not enough? So let's start from the first one. So usually only the second or third version of the MVP version of the product meets market needs. So what does it mean? So from my experience, when I work in the delivery, so there are problems when customer typically spends some amount of money to develop the first version of the product, and he didn't run the validation process before that. So during the development of the first version of the product, even the second version of the product, MVP version, he tried to run the validation in parallel, and after he finished the validation process, he started to realize that there is something new, there's something more features that need to be realigned to meet the market needs. So, but after the some figure out, money has been spent, and actually long time to market has been applied. So this is actually the problem with this process.
Yeah, another item that I would say why ideation is not enough for the making innovation successful is really that lots of the people are thinking that market validation is really a tough process. I have been part of a lot of the product sessions, defining some new services and new products about doing some different things. But the point is that a lot of product managers really considering the validation of the things in the market, so something like a tough. And as a result, they are not doing this. And because they are not doing this, the innovation not becoming very successful at the end. And that's really the huge item. And making this easy, I would say, making the market validation, getting the feedbacks from the market in easy way from somebody else is really will improve the success of your innovation strongly.
Yeah, and from such perspective, I would add it's really hard to keep the business and technical context in one place. So that means that when you start into development, when some team starts the development or starts the even assumptions validation or other stuff, they probably need some sort of more context. They're always looking for the more technical, more business context to understand the problem better, to bring more value, and to do all this stuff more efficiently. So this is something I was really not enough when I running the development projects, when I do not see the business context. I just need to develop some sort of part of the module or new solution. I really need to understand the business problem and technical problems that should solve the business problem.
Yeah, and I would add to that, as a product manager, actually, is the huge challenge actually to explain to architects and different directors and implementers why I made this decision to implement this stuff. And because this decision has been made, and as a result, I see there's some kind of the opposition with the implementation and etc. So having everything in one place, like the decision-making process about how the decisions can be done, what the validations about that, what the decision-making process, that's a huge benefit, and it will increase I would say, knowledge transition time for the team to make them really effective in using their skills with the implementation of the solution.
Yeah, I suppose all the problems are really familiar for the people that are running this industry.
Yeah, so far we just told you about what are the problems with the innovation, how they are successful, what the reasons are behind that, and actually what are the cool things that should be implemented in order to improve this. In software, actually, we have been asked ourselves this a little bit earlier, about a couple of years ago, and we created some solution which we are using within our company. This helps us to successfully launch a lot of the initiatives internally, and as a result, we also are working with our customers to help them to launch their initiative to make them more successful with their market. So this is called the innovation framework, and in reality, you see the snapshot of that innovation framework, what it is. It probably looks a little bit too messy, but in reality, this is pretty easy thing. Like in generally, you have it consists of the general process which we are following. Like in the top level, you see the ideate, iterate, and deliver. where it has some set of tools like idea management tool, like the prototyping tool, like the analytics tool, tracking OKRs tools, and etc. And of course the set of services which really connect this all stuff together.
So basically what we got on the ideate stage, so basically we have the idea module that allows us to tap into the crowd ideation technique and leverage potential solution workshop with BAs, architects, and product managers. So, and as output of this ideation, crowd ideation, we've got the top ideas that might be the first initial solution concept. So, as the first initial solution concept, we may want to validate this solution concept. So, and for the iterate module, the solution concept goes with the assumptions. So we've got basically three types of assumptions. First one is a proof of concept. We'll call it proof of concept. Second one is market research. Third one is survey. So if we run this validation of the assumptions, we get the feedback from the market. We get the feedback from end users. We get the feedback from our customers. So having this feedback in place, we can now analyze the assumptions and define what we should do so far. So the main goal of this stuff is a really easy process of doing the iteration and validation of the assumptions. So, and then we can just define whether we meet our market need or not. So we answer the question, invest or not invest to deliver. So the deliver module actually consists of the really easy tool for defining objective key results, tracking objective key results, and typically accomplish all the challenge that allows us to be really confident that we are doing the right innovation.
Yeah, cool. And as I told you earlier, so we are using this very actively, and it really helped us, first of all, to reduce time to market from idea to innovation, for each of the innovation, to launching the innovation, and of course, they increase the success rate of these. Yeah, and probably I would like to share how we are doing this. So just imagine that you are the product manager that has been recently assigned to solve some challenge. So, first of all is that you have to create this challenge within the framework platform that we just described earlier. So by the way, this is a very important item. You really have to think about the naming and outlining the problem, how to do this, to really intrigue the different people who would like to participate and really use this power of the crowd, which we told earlier, within the ideation and later, of course, the market validation and other activities either. So you are creating the challenge. Next step, of course, I need some ideas. For that, I'm organizing the ideation session. So the system will drive me through this step, but I can use different techniques for the ideation. We can do hackathons, we can do the ideation workshops, we can do probably brainstorming session, the old version, like the old-fashioned school or something like this. Probably we'll do some kind of the remote ideation or long-term ideation discussions within the different people and etc. And by the way, this is very effective stuff. So as a result, I'll have tons of the ideas from different people, stakeholders, whom I am inviting. So if I would like to get the ideas from my customers and somebody is saying you have the following challenge in your application with one of your customers, so I'm just inviting him into the ideation and please tell your ideas how I can improve service for you or something like that. They are submitting that, and after that step I have tons of the ideas that really solve my challenge in that other way. Usually after that there is so-called filtration process, which we call the voting. I need to really understand which are the top ideas I should really concentrate on at the moment. This is in different companies, within software and with other companies, their customers implementing this approach. Either it's pretty different. Usually this is sometimes investment committees are doing the review of the ideas. Sometimes this is the financial check should be passed. Sometimes it's just the people who are doing the ideation itself. They're providing their opinion which ideas are the most important. So that's all passing the voting process. But at the end, I'm having the top ideas which I believe, first of all, and people whom I trust also believe that they will solve my particular challenge. So next item, we are of course running the so-called the experience design workshop, which is typically, for me, designs the solution. I am having the idea, but I would like to have the solution, which really solves the problem with all descriptions, with some user persona, buyer persona, market positioning, other different things, understanding what the market is behind that, what the real key items are there, and etc. And that actually is something that really experience design workshop, which utilizes the design thinking methodology, is really designing here. So that's actually, if you remember from the topic that Taras showed you, is the entire ideation process. So we are just finished. We started with the challenge and we are finishing with the solution. But what the problem? With the solution has tons of the assumptions. What I really need to do the validation of these assumptions. So I'm moving to the next step, which is, as Taras showed you earlier, to the iteration stage, where I'm creating these assumptions and validating them through different steps. Like if I have assumptions, for example, I think that this feature will create wow effect for this kind of the user persona. So that's typical product problem which I have, and I really need to validate it. So is it so or no? And proof of concept is the best choice to do this. So that's the item I really would like to understand, and etc. So I'm creating the proof of concept. I am creating the small demo. I am assigning different people to the system to provide their feedbacks, live feedbacks on this, and they are providing me feedbacks, and I'm getting the market feedback. So I'm really confident that at least for these users who are representative of this market, they really providing me the real feedback, does it work or no. And being honest, this is usually very different from what I was expecting on the initial stages where I was defining. Of course, another way is doing the surveys, which is the validation of the business assumptions. For example, I have some theoretical, not the technical things. For example, so which is, do you think that having this ability will help you to live better or something like this, for example, so etc. And I'm creating usually the survey for that, and I'm assigning different salespeople or probably just sending this to these people to provide an answer for that. And I'm having all the stuff within one place, one context, everything, all these assumptions are being saved within one place. This is extremely important for me. And third one is doing the research. Usually this is being done for when you have to understand where you are comparing to your competitors, and you are typically requesting the research from different consulting companies or some business analysis organization and etc. or research ones. They are providing you the report, which is the extended one, etc. And this all either is within one place. So after I passed number of these validations of the assumptions, so what I'm ready to write the business case to ask the investments. So, and my business case is not something, guys, I believe in this idea, for example, so which really should be working here, and please give me the money for this, and etc. I am saying, guys, that's the idea. I talked to different number of the options. It was, among them was our customers, among them were their third-party communities. We passed the crowd ideation process. After that, we created that solution. We validated that solution through different prototypes. For example, 5 of them. You can see them, tangible prototypes. We validated that they work. We collected different feedbacks on them. We judged the surveys and etc. And that's why I think this solution is worth investing in, because there is a market-validated, proven data on that. And being honest, I'm having these discussions right now when I'm launching new initiatives, so I don't have issues with I would say convincing everybody that my idea is cool.
Because you've got the proof.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the point. That's the whole point about this stuff. And this investment decision is coming pretty quickly. So usually, if the money exists, they're being assigned to me. If they're not, of course, so that's the issue. And the last thing that once I've been assigned, I really need to understand need to track how I am achieving and solving this challenge, which is typically defining the objective and key results for that. It could be sample of these objectives, like I would like to have MVP implemented within 3 months, for example, so which is pretty common objective, I would say, for everybody. Yeah. So because longest period is really also somehow time to market is taking a little bit longer. Another objective could be like launch the marketing campaign, for example, and get the first lead, for example, so within 4th month of our involvement. Third objective is to have the one sales, for example, so within half a year or something like this. Have a real customer who is buying this and sign the contract for that. So I'm defining them, and I'm really tracking this execution, and I can, based on this, understanding how I'm implementing. Probably there are some changes should be implemented into the solution to accommodate the marketing strategy and etc. And you know what is very cool here? If I see that I have some challenge that's happening within my OKR, I'm submitting this as the new challenge within the system, and everybody is brainstorming with all the context in the behind about the stuff that was defined earlier, and they are generating me very quick solutions about how to solve these particular challenges. And having all this done, for example, you are becoming in this 10% of the successful innovators that we mentioned you earlier. So that's probably the quick, I would say, receipt from our side about how to be more successful with the innovations and how to really work here and how to utilize all the cool techniques like the crowd, open innovation, and other stuff within your daily activities.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you, Taras. I think it was a very interesting session. So now it's time for questions. So we have the question here, the first question, we actually have a couple. So what are the most effective tips to increase success of innovation?
Well, that's a cool thing. Probably I'll start answering it, Taras will continue this. So the question is really, don't be shy asking the market. That's my tip, for example. I talked to a number of the product managers, to different people who are having the idea and really believe in these ideas, but we all know that in reality these ideas at the end, when they became the successful, really not exactly the same that you have been thinking about this at the early stage. And the smartness about how you implemented this idea is really the process when you actually figure out this difference. And if you are figuring out this difference between what you believe in and what market expects on the early stages, you will spend much less money and will much less time and much less, I would say, psychology, energy or something like that about proving to everybody that this is something cool. And at the end, you will become more successful much earlier. So that's probably the tip number one from me.
Yeah, I would add the tip like use always outside in ideation that should leverage you to have wider context of understanding the ideas, different solutions, potential solutions that might arrive to your deck. So this is something like tip from my side that I really like it. So.
Yeah. No, and of course use all the tips we talked to you about earlier, like using the crowd power, using the validation, doing it with the social networks, with the external people, not inside out, as like Taras mentioned, and etc. And of course tracking your success. Sometimes it becomes pretty obvious, but the big things are happening when you are tracking the obvious stuff. And actually, so when you really understand that at some point of time that you have to do this, for example, so have to do this stuff, and in some period of time, for example, like in a month or 2 or 3, to remember what was important to you about the month ago is really hard thing, especially when you're doing a lot of demos and etc. So I really recommend you to really track your success, and at the end you'll really understand, are you solving the challenge or not?
Awesome, thank you. So we have another question here about the platform. How does your platform solution help to involve external users in ideation process? Maybe you can talk about this.
Yeah, probably we'll start with this one. So it's really easy to tap external users to our platform, just so-called use like external co-innovation, right? And there is an ability to create simple users like external people to the organization. Even so, the platform actually supports single sign-on. So even with that, there is an ability to add external users that will have leverage your ideation process. So if we're talking basically how the platform is distributed, so it's like typically software as a service solution running right now in 4 world geo zones. And it really contains some native mobile apps for iOS and Android, so that will help run the ideation process more simply, more smoothly, and more motivated for the contributors. So that's probably from technical side.
Yeah, probably I would add to this, for example, so I'm actually very actively using this platform at the moment, and the point is that, for example, recently I had the request from one of our customers to tell, guys, we have the cool challenge, also how to create the new differentiator for our company. Of course, I wouldn't name the company itself, but the point is that we really we understood that we really are in the ideate stage with the customer, and we have to start this ideation session with them to generate a cool number of the ideas. And being honest, what we did, so I created the challenge within the system. I assigned the customer representative into the system. I assigned our experts from technical point of view. I assigned different domain knowledge holders about this stuff. And we had that extremely cool ideation session, which really resulted into the number of the cool ideas, which we are working right now about the implementation. So it's easy. Just request them through the platform and etc.
Great.
Thank you very much. So this was one of the series of our webinars, and this was on ideation, and we will be having other parts coming up soon. So stay tuned, and you will be receiving the recording of this webinar shortly after this session. Thank you very much, and have a great day.